Hey, I'm Liam from PPW and this is a how-to series. We realise that PPW at the moment can only go so far and we want to reach more people and we want to help more people. So this is a little bit of a how-to about how we do certain things. Today's video is going to look at rolling. Now I know the exciting thing is taking bumps and taking moves and jumping off the top rope, but we have to start somewhere, and where we start is rolling. Our 6-week beginner course here at PPW, the first thing that people do is roll. But why is that? Well, rolls are extremely important. When it comes to rolling, it's about body control, it's about body movement, and it's about the safety of yourself getting out of positions. I have 4 basic rolls to go through. A forward roll, a right arm roll, a left arm roll, and a backwards roll. Now, obviously, there are more rolls and more variations of that, but for you at this moment in time, if you're a beginner, these are absolutely essentials before we move forward, and that's where we would start at. Out of our 4 basic rolls, the first one that we would look at is our forward roll. Before we get into that, let's think about us feet. Footwork within pro wrestling is extremely important. Now, most places, and here as well, will ask you to be in a left foot forward stance. Now, why is that? Well, the left foot forward stance is our fighting stance. It's how we make it look like we are ready for combat. If I'm passive and then I'm told to do a right arm shoulder roll, as we will get to, it's really hard to find position out of this. Whereas if I'm left foot forward and I need to go into a forward roll, I set and I create unison through my movement. If I am stood just blank, then I'm not ready to go. But if I bring my left foot forward and I put myself into a fighting stance, now I look a little bit more like a wrestler. It also allows us to create a unison when it comes to our footwork and find starting positions. The more unison that we have, the easier our footwork is, the easier it is coming into our roll. So for every one of these rolls, I would ideally like you to be in a left foot forward fighting stance. So we've got our left foot forward fighting stance. For a forward roll position, Dan would bring his foot forward to be square, and then in this position, his hands would come down in front of his toes to create a train track motion. As his hands come down, his feet pop through, he tucks his chin to look at his belly button and he rolls straight over his spine. As he comes up to feet, his feet are planted and he will step forward on his left foot. So, return to fighting stance position and give me a forward roll, please. And we're up and through. And a forward roll position. Now, things that I'm ideally not looking for here and what I would like people to avoid is their head turning in different directions. Now, so when it comes to rolling, they will either come out to one side or the other side. And what happens is this. They'll kick across and then end up in this side position. Now, I don't look ready for combat, do I? I look ready to be painted like one of my French girls, but not ready to continue to wrestle.
Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls.
So this forward motion allows me to come up to feet. And again, that's what we want, is to be able to roll through and go from one position to another position and up to feet. So we want to avoid this position across here. This is the scary element of pro wrestling. I'm going to ask you to invert. What I usually say is that your head is going to have to go under your arse. The reason for this is that we often find ourselves in this inverted position anyway, and we must become comfortable with this. If you struggle to become comfortable with this, it's going to hold us off on a lot of future things when it comes to us pro wrestling. So I don't want the head to turn either side. I want it to go straight forward and through. Feet have to come into a planted squat position and we have to be able to come up to our feet. Now what's important here is our squat mobility. Can you do a deep squat? Can you sit down to the ground and keep your feet, or at least your toes, into the ground to be able to stand up? If you really struggle on that, you might find that this roll position is that little bit harder. Another thing that people get stuck on is as they go down, they hesitate. So there, where I mentioned about the feet coming off the ground as the hands come down, where people go wrong is they do this. And now they've planted, and now you can think. But we don't want to think, we want to do. So as you go through, your hands come down and your feet have to come off the ground as one fluid motion. Now, I've mentioned about hands coming down, but we saw HMD roll and he used fists into the ground. That's fine, he likes punching things, he likes punching the floor, it's all good. He can either go to here or here. Either is fine. I tend to have fingers forward or planted so your thumbs are forward into here. I'd never have your hands out this way or into this position. It ends up being a little bit awkward. So again, for a forward roll position, if HMD gives me a forward roll, he's in a fighting stance, the feet come forward, the hands come down, and he tucks and rolls up in one straight line there. Well done, HMD. The next two rolls that we're going to look at is a right arm shoulder roll and a left arm shoulder roll. Now, some people might refer to these as combat rolls or 3/4 shoulder rolls. I will refer to them as a right and a left arm shoulder roll. And when I talk about right arm, left arm, I also want people to think about their feet as well. If I say right arm, I mean right foot. If I say left arm, I mean left foot. Now, the reason for this is to be able to roll through in a 3/4 position where we might have a body part that's taken, so we can roll through. It's a little bit more dynamic than a forward roll, and it adds a little bit more speed to our rolling motions. Being able to roll on both sides is really helpful, because if we find ourselves in a position where we need to roll out of, it's going to be way easier and more safe to do a shoulder roll than it would be to do a forward roll out of it. The forward roll is helpful for being able to roll forward, but it doesn't allow us a lot of directional mobility. The right arm and left arms does allow us a little bit more direction through it. Now, we are in a fighting stance. HMD, please, a fighting stance. To go into a right arm shoulder roll, HMD would just step forward onto his right foot. But what happens on the left? Go back for me, please. All we're going to do is a little stutter step forward. So I'm already in this fighting stance and I'd be here. A mistake that I see sometimes, and it's okay because we're learning a lot of new things. We're in a fighting stance position and I go step forward on your left and people go, but look how further forward I am in the ring. I've run out of room to roll. So again, a left arm shoulder roll is the step. Now, it comes to his arms. If I go to my right arm shoulder roll, I'm here. Two options. I can either go arm up and arm down in this forward position, or in a diamond triangle position, down and through. There is a slight bias on the shoulder, but I'm still going forward in this motion. So you can think about this in a similar way that you might think to a forward roll. What I don't want people doing, and this is right and left, is this spin across the shoulder. Spin across the shoulder, because what's going to happen is we're going to end up in that same side-on position. So if I get HMD, who again has only done 3, he's probably got 4 hours of training in him, so please be nice to him. Give me a right arm shoulder roll, please, HMD. Now we're going to go to his left arm shoulder roll. Give me a left arm shoulder roll, please. And we're through up into position. Now, again, if I'm being critical, that footwork at the end could be a nice little bit tighter. So as we come up and through into that left foot forward, and we've got that left foot forward already, again, it's a step forward and into that position to get us ready for combat. Do you want to try another left arm shoulder roll for me, please, HMD? Sure. And he's here, and he steps forward. Perfect, a great roll, very coachable. PC, he's called HMD. A real common factor that people go into is they leave both feet forward, so they end up in a staggered stance like this. What that isn't helpful for is being able to stand up comfortably, whereas the shin coming under allows us a lot more control for when we come up to feet. What we're looking at here is that 3/4 roll position as we're coming up with his feet. So I talked about the upper body, I'll touch on the lower body. As we're going into a right arm shoulder roll, this foot kicks up and behind. What that allows us to do is in the grounded position. This is tucked under, which means that here the shin comes down, the foot comes forward, which makes it easier for me to step up and through. And then if I switch that over, allows me to come up and through, which is really helpful for getting off the ground. And when we successfully do the roll, ideally we want to be stepping forward with that left foot forward to allow us to get back into that fighting stance position, ready to lock up, because that's what we might do in a pro wrestling circle. It's never what we do, but that's what we're instructed to do. So there are shoulder rolls. To look at the backwards roll, so far we've been facing forwards. Now if I'm stood here and I want to do a backwards roll and I commit to going backwards roll here, I'm going to hit the ropes. Bad times. So all I'm going to do is turn around and drop into my backwards roll position. When it comes to that backwards roll, it's very, very similar to our forwards roll. Feet are going to stay about shoulder width apart, dropping down and back. Chin is going to be tucked. I would like people to grab their knees to help them pull over the top. As we go over, hands like you've got 2 slices of pizza and you're going to smush them into the floor to get your head through, and then feet come to ground to come up to standing. And as we come up to standing, we step back forward into that left foot fighting stance position. What we don't do is step back on the right. Ideally, as we go over, we find us toes, but we might find knees. If we do come to knees, then we pop straight up to toes. And as we come up and through, we want that left foot forward fighting stance to come back in again. So as we get to that position, we would step into it rather than right foot stepping back, which might feel like the more natural motion. But again, from a top down, as we've been told, it's a left foot forward into there. And that would be our backwards roll. So, HMD, minutes into training. Let's have a look at a backwards roll for me, please. And we're here and through with a foot. He's learning. He's learning. Sometimes people do struggle with this. The rolling back and the neck bend can be a really tricky position for people to get into. So sometimes I'll recommend a roll over the shoulder. That allows us a little bit more space, not as much pressure into the neck, but still a backwards roll position. What I do find with that though is the more that we go into a shoulder, the more likely that we are to spill out to a side, and the worse that back roll is going to be. If I was to demonstrate this shoulder roll position, I'm using my arm to roll through into there. Now I still hit a straight line. What can happen with that though is that people can kick out to one side, which again leaves us in this side position, not being able to get up to feet. And the most important part about our rolling is being able to get up to feet. Hopefully something that you've noticed through this video is that HMD has been rolling in a straight line. Wonderful. That's exactly what we need. We must have body control. If you are finding that your rolling is taking you out to one side or the other side, we probably don't have the most body control. And that's something that we desperately need for our pro wrestling. So a straight line, whatever direction we're going in, is incredibly important. Something that I give on week 1 of our beginners course is a little video about floor rolling, and this is how we roll comfortably on the floor. So let's say we don't have the ring and you don't have space to roll through into, but we do want to work on our footwork. There's this position here. This is mainly important for our leg positioning for when it comes to our left and right shoulder rolls. What we're going to do, Dan, sit down on this line for me, please. We're going to sit down. We're going to roll back onto his shoulders, almost onto his neck, and then we're going to tuck our leg behind, kicking towards his bum. The shin comes down, the foot comes forward. We will start with the right foot forward first, and then to the left foot. So we're going to roll back onto his shoulders, the leg kicks under, and we come up into this left foot forward stance. Now, sorry, right foot forward stance. Now here, there's 2 variations. I've come up and through, and Dan has sat to his bum. That's absolutely fine. As I come back and down, we switch over, the leg switches, and we come into this position. You can then continue to do that, where we go roll and forward, and I might start coming up and through now. What I could do is get up to standing and through, to then come back down and continue the process, and so on from there. So that's a floor rolling technique, which again is helpful for opening out his hips and getting a little bit of movement going through there, so you can train your body to tell it where to go, because the more control that we have, the better our rolling will be. The better our rolling is, the easier everything else becomes in pro wrestling. It's something that HMD will learn as we go further into time. Something that I'd really like to highlight as a injury prevention point, and this is especially for if we're a little bit bigger, this is usually where I find this happening, is a breaking of the upper and the lower body, which can sometimes create a tear in a lower abdomen, which could put you on the shelf for weeks. And if we're first starting pro wrestling, that's the last thing that we want to do. So what do I mean by this? In essence, as we roll through, if we do not have core stability, we will open at the upper and the lower body and we'll get a dum-dum. There is an overstretch through the abdomen, which then means that that ends up ripping. This usually happens on either a forward roll or a backwards roll, predominantly the backwards roll when we don't control the motion going back and down. So to demonstrate this motion, as I roll through, watch how my body separates as I come up. You see how even that's made it hard for me to get up. My body has stopped down here, and now I am no longer in a ball. My hips have come separated. Because this has happened, there is an overstretch through here, and if we are not used to rolling through, the pressure on the abdomen can be huge. This more comes into factor when it comes to a backwards roll, because people sit and then we go, I'll go backwards. And all in one motion, that separation creates a big stretch through there. The easiest way of solving this is staying tight into a ball. So as I roll forward, I stay compact. I keep a tension in my abdomen, keeping my knees tucked towards my chest, which allows me, one, to roll through nice and easy, and two, avoiding that tear. A great cue for you is to grab hold of your knees. It's the same thing on a backwards roll. Knees or hamstrings, your choice. But on the backwards roll, if I drop down and grab my knees, I keep them tucked towards me. I go past the point where the body can open contact, and from there I protect this lower abdomen. Again, this is really, really important for injury prevention, especially if we're a bit of a bigger body. So that was our rolling. Again, a really, really, really important part of our pro wrestling. If you struggle to control the roll, there is probably things that we will struggle to control as we move further forward. So the better that your rolling is, the better that you will be at pro wrestling. Now I know it's not super exciting, but it is really, really important. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, we have our basic rolls here, but there are more advanced rolls like handstand rolls and lucha rolls, but they will come in time. The more that we master these 4 basic rolls, the easier everything is moving forward. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, drop a like, leave us a comment about what rolls you find most comfortable and what rolls you might struggle with. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I've been Liam Slater, this is PPW, and we'll see you next time.